Dear hardworking everyday genius, welcome to day 5 of Sparktending, 10 minutes or less each day of reflections and tips towards self-care and creative practice for mothers. This is the third day that I am talking about time and creation. Today, we're getting out the fairy dust, polishing our blinged out wrenches and crowbars, stirring up our glittery lubricant, and heading over to our calendars to rearrange that hot mess. We spend a lot of time making our calendars elegant, making everything work, making it fit, visualizing the flow of our days and weeks. And calendars are masterworks of design. It's one of humankind's greatest abstractions of time. It allows us to visualize a certain kind of time, the linear kind, the quantifiable kind, so that we can make sure that we get to do all the things we must do. But our calendars need to be enthusiastically invaded by some nonlinear time, some irrational time, some time not influenced by those things that we must do and remember. We need liminal time, weird time, time that can grow and shrink the expansion to fit the expansions and contractions of the living, breathing, creative projects or processes that want to take hold of us. Here's a beautiful quote from Jeanette Winterson from her essay, Art and Imagination. The time that art needs, which might not be a long time, but which has to be its own time, is anathema to money culture. Money confuses time with itself. That is part of its unreality. Against this golden calf in the wilderness where all come to buy and sell, the honest currency of art offers quite a different rate of exchange. The artist does not turn time into money. The artist turns time into energy, time into intensity, time into vision. Later she says, the work of art is abundant, spills out, gets drunk, sits up with you all night and forgets to close the curtains, dries your tears, is your friend, offers you a disguise, a difference, a pose. Cut it and cut it through, and there's still a diamond at the core. Skim the top, and it's rich. The inexhaustible energy of art is transfusion for a worn-out world. How can art making or creation in any form become part of your inexhaustible energy source, your transfusion for where you are worn out? The first answer is the topic of yesterday's podcast, Breathe Like a Snail. Today's answer is for those of you who are ready, or who want to be ready, to attack the calendar with fairy dust, or a grenade, depending on your state of being right now. I'm just going to throw out a couple of ideas, then I want you to run with it. Think differently about your support networks, your boundaries, your relationships, your responsibilities, and see what can loosen. What can loosen when your self-care is non-negotiable? When your creative fire is a light that can never go out. When you trust that others will hold the responsible space while you dissolve. A big challenge for us mothers, tenders of precious lives. First idea. Plan a monthly weekend-long retreat. Every month by yourself, without the internet or your phone. I did this for a year when my son was 3. Here are the reasons that I knew it would be impossible, and how I solved those dilemmas with convention interventions. Because to put yourself first defies convention. We were low income. Paying for some place to stay was not an option. I wrote to everyone I know in my city, and I asked them to let me know when they were going away for the weekend. I even wrote to the local parents list of 700 people, most of whom I've never met. I asked if I could house sit for whatever weekend they were going away and water their plants, and I told them why. It worked out that there was some place nice to stay for a weekend just about every month. The convention that I defied, asking to move into someone's business, sleep in their beds, eat from their fridge, showing them that I needed something, showing that I couldn't pay, showing myself and my life and my struggles, being me, expecting support, trusting that it would be there. Crazily, to my mind at that time, people loved to say yes to that. Impossibility number 2, my son still needed me way too much to be away from him all weekend. My partner would be stressed out by nonstop parenting for the weekend. Mind you, these were my fears, not his. It felt like way too much to ask him to parent solo for a couple of days, given that it was a time of parenting that was super challenging for both of us in so many ways, and we survived by taking turns constantly. I did it anyway, and I brought my guilt along with me, and when I came home, I noticed that both father and son were in great shape. They had a wonderful weekend. They were closer to each other than before. In fact, I had to get out of their way for the next steps to be taken for them. My partner asked me to leave more often. The convention that I clearly defied is the belief inside me that I am always indispensable as a mom, and that people suffer, that my son will suffer without my omnipresence and over responsibility. Does this sound familiar to anybody? Can you admit it? When my partner had to work, which he often does on the weekends, I had to ask friends for childcare help who I don't normally ask, and I asked them to do it for free. And this defied the convention that says that hanging out with a child is a favor, it's work, it's not fun, it's a burden. No, 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 not in my world. So I asked. For the first 2 retreats, I laid on the floor and cried, ate way too much chocolate, binge-watched TV, and noticed how tired I was. Then I stayed at an artist friend's house and I read art books all weekend. Then I started anticipating these art retreats all month, and creative inspiration started showing up and panting at the door. At about month 4, I started making stuff. Not talking to anyone all weekend, knowing I had all day and all night, that was enough to shake things loose that I hadn't had access to since pre-pregnancy. And amazingly, the recharge and the reassurance that those days gave me, the experience of being first and caring for myself exclusively, carried over for weeks afterwards. I was lighter, brighter. I couldn't believe this was happening to me. I couldn't believe that I made it happen. I had more of a sense of connection to my friends, even my kid. The effects still ripple from that year. And I think I'm still working to understand how profound it is to actually prioritize ourselves, not in tiny piecemeal ways, but in big sweeping ways. Your impossible barriers will be different. Maybe you're parenting solo and you'd need to figure out a lot more childcare all that weekend. Maybe you're a nursing mom and you'd have to pump milk for days to store up enough. Maybe you work on weekends. Maybe you never have more than 1 day off from work at a time. So I ask you, what's the strategic next step then to work your way towards a vision like this? What relationships do you want to nourish? What community building do you have to do so that over time you can build the kind of trust you need in people to be able to ask you for help, for you to be able to ask them for help? List the people that you would feel comfortable giving your child to for a weekend or a day, but could never ask. Is it true that you can't ask? What if you defied convention? When we defy conventions, we are leading. We show by example what it looks like for a woman, a mother, that being that the culture still defines by sacrifice. Prioritizes her own well-being and expects others to see the value in her self-care. I can think of acts of revolution that are as clear as this, but not many that are more clear than this. When you do this, you strengthen your bonds of interdependence and mutual reliance in your community. You give a green light for others to ask things of you and each other. You make the possible more possible for you and others. One more idea. A month-long art intensive. You tell everyone in your life that you're going on an artist retreat. It happens to be from home, but you are unavailable. You get someone to organize on your behalf and have them set up a meal train, like some people do for each other when a baby is a newborn. Someone else gathers 4 people, each of whom will come to your house once over the course of the month and tidy up, do the dishes, and throw the laundry in. You pay extra for some childcare every Saturday, all day, or you ask a friend to host your child or children on those days. You'll host their kids next month. You take vacation days from work if that's available. You call in sick. You clear a room. You call it your studio, and you put a giant "Do Not Enter" sign on it. You make everyone move over for your month of making. What would that look like? What would you have to ask for? So whether it's a weekend or an hour or a month-long art intensive from home or some other genius, audacious, generous gift you devise to give yourself, push beyond your own mindsets of what you deserve and what you don't. Most of that has to do with where we've internalized notions of sacrifice and unrelenting, unpaid labor as mothers. Defy convention and reach out. Lead. Be central. Join us again for day 6 of Sparktending. Sign up to receive these in your inbox at amywalsh.net/spark and join the Facebook group called Tending Sparks, Self-Care and Creativity for Mothers, and we'll talk it all over. Love you, mamas.